tonight is kind of like a temperance. It's I want to go through, and I'll just pull up I'll share my screen so you can see. So the topic tonight is around how do you sell AI in a legacy world? And this is actually, a lot of this content is fused throughout the Ask Beaves stack. But what I've tried to do here is I've tried to highlight all of the reasons why AI won't work. Okay, so all of the things that you're going to struggle with, and to think about the opportunities within that, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so the first point is around, you need to invest in yourself. So don't assume that the company you work for, the organization that you work for, has your best interests at heart with respect to AI. They'll be looking at their risk profile, their budget, what they think they're allowed to do from an industrial relations standpoint. So if you want to be successful in the future, I would highly recommend you invest some money in AI. And that doesn't mean you need to go and get a master's degree in AI. I mean, I've gone and looked at all that world, and I've looked at the curricula, and I actually find it kind of boring. And it's really like AI probably from 2 or 3 years ago. And it's not even generative AI. It's more like, how do we classify pictures, or, Python and stuff like that. Or it's more sort of data analytics, if that makes sense. So, the universities have a bit of ways to go to catch up, I think. The other thing I'd say is some of the best AI people in the world are just building courses and releasing them all over the place. And probably the best place I've found is on YouTube. There are tons and tons of people in this world that have awesome AI skills, very well credentialed as well. Alex Kapathy's one. He used to be the head of autonomy at Tesla. He puts out a lot of content. I think it's the deep learning.ai website is very good. The guy that started Coursera builds a lot of content. I know they do free agent courses on Crew AI, and I can direct you to some of this stuff. I think there's another guy on Twitter called Akshay. He's got a lot of really cool stuff as well, but I can share that separately without going into too much detail. The other thing I would say is the models. Okay, there's a point in your life when you need to spend money on yourself. We all spend money on Netflix and email systems and all sorts of computer games and junk. If I was to say what are the last 2 things I would turn off in my life, the first one would be my Starlink subscription, because obviously that's access to the internet. And then it would be my Claude Max. So I would probably cut my power off at my house before I cut those 2 things off. And I would probably have a battery system to run my Starlink. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're the last things in the world I'd be cutting right now. I think they're really, really, really important, beyond sort of personal comfort. I think AI, if you get good at it, is going to make you 1,000 times more efficient at pretty much everything. I'm feeling that just myself, and you'll have that moment where you get good at it. Now, a lot of organizations talk about AI in terms of the concept of a use case. We're going to have use cases, and then we're going to have governance, and then we're going to go through and we're going to deliver those use cases through some sort of IT process. I think while that is a valid path for some things, I think they're wildly missing the point. I think they've got really big workforces with a whole bunch of people with really good brains. If you put them with AI, you don't actually need to enterprise anything to get value. You can get value tomorrow if you know how to use this stuff. I would also say your employer is very unlikely to give you the best tools. Almost 0% probability you're going to get the best tools through your employer. So don't expect them. I would also caution you not to break corporate laws. do not do anything that would put corporate information at risk. Personal information, private information. There are laws, and you can get in trouble. But I would also push for flexibility where possible. Okay, so a lot of work tasks, a lot of things you do don't necessarily involve personal or sensitive or commercially kind of important data. And we can always try tools with synthetic data as well. So it's kind of like push the bounds and go, well, could we do this? Build some synthetic data, build something, try to get some traction, and then say, hey, how do we kind of operationalize this? I would also say, and I'm becoming very sort of pig-headed and strong on this, I think the culture of your organization with respect to AI will dictate its survival probability. So I think organizations that are just flat out against AI will probably get eaten alive. The organizations that have a positive mindset towards it and are open to iteration and experimentation, they have a much better chance. And I think you'll start to see in the economy these sort of organizations that get the culture right and organizations that get the culture wrong. And the ones that get it wrong are just going to get lapped 20 times. It's going to be an exponential type curve. So invest in yourself is the message on that one.
I think
Sorry.
Yeah, Bruce, go ahead.
Even for places that move atoms, you reckon?
Probably less to an extent, but if you think of moving atoms, there's still customer service, there's still the commercial sides of the business, there's still the speed in which you can solve problems and bid on things, write tenders, respond to tenders. If you're up against a firm, say you were like a farming services business and you were doing it the old way and you got the lady in the office and she takes all week to write something and she doesn't reach out to clients and she's very linear. If some new organization came in and they had some guns in the office that, really, really were above the ball, reached out, communicated well, they're going to look more professional.
Yeah.
So I think it will, but this is where I get to the reality check. Okay. You might think you have a good AI idea, but there's a whole bunch of reasons why that idea is going to get shot down. And I think it's really important to think about this before you go and do stuff in the world. So I have been working in AI professionally for probably 18 months, 2 years. And these are my weights. These are not, they're kind of backed by statistics because I've read reports and stuff. But about 50% of the population doesn't like AI. They just don't like it. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to know about it. And within that group, 40% are neutral. 50% are actively dislike. 40% of the population are neutral, and they will do nothing to actualize. So even if you showed them the most amazing thing, they won't go and learn it. If you said, I'm going to teach you something, they won't do anything, right? Of the 50%, 30% will fight you to implement it. So there'll be a group of people that want to unionize and they want to stop you. 10% may even use AI as a weapon against you. They may try to get you in trouble. They may try to, say this is against rules or something like that. About 7% I'm finding will positively engage with it, meaning they'll go and learn and they'll put their head down. 2% will become really proficient at it, like they'll almost become animals with it, like they'll become really, really powerful with it, and probably 1% will master it. Okay, now over time these numbers will change. I think it'll just be like but what you find is that group of people there, and sorry this doesn't add up to 100. It's a bit confusing.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But the AI did this. But basically that group of people that are negative, if you go anywhere near those people, you're just going to get governance, you're going to get roadblocks, you're going to get problems. Okay? So you got to go play with the people down the bottom but those people are going to be rare as hen's teeth. In fact, I personally know very few people in Australia that I would say are guns at this stuff. I don't know. It's very, very rare. You see it around, but yeah, it's very rare.
But there are a lot of people actually, Tim, who are using it effectively, both on the business side and the tech side as well. It's just that I think that, they are keeping it to themselves as well.
Yeah.
Because they see it as a major differentiator, and they think, knowledge is, of course, power. So why teach anybody else and buy the best infrastructure, get all the right tools, use the right LLM for whatever they're trying to do, but don't tell anybody as to how they're doing it, because they think that they're making money because of it. So that is the other challenge.
Yeah. So you've almost got this invisible category.
Yep.
There's people competing against you that you don't know because they don't disclose.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have a few like Tim who want to do it, but yeah, people don't listen as well sometimes. So Tim will be somebody who wants people to learn, but others are not willing to listen sometimes. That's all. And I think, I think they're scared. I don't know whether I'll say they dislike it. I think they're really scared. So it shows up like a dislike. I think, not knowing something itself makes people probably powerless, so to say. So they feel that, hey, when they hear prompt engineering as a term, that itself says, oh my God, now I'll have to learn engineering. You know what I mean? So it is like that.
It's like talking.
Yeah. So yeah. I think that is the other challenge. But yeah, you're right. In the corporate world, and that is what I'm seeing as well, and they choose tools and they want you to stick to those tools.
Yes.
Whether they're the best or not is not the question. We have made a choice. Now you better stick to that. Don't go outside of that. And I can talk about banks who are doing the same things. Okay, they're trying in some parts, but other parts they have decided this is it. And this is the journey I'm going to take. While they should be looking at things every 6 months, they'll have to look at things, because things are changing so fast. So you're right, Tim. Anyhow.
Yep.
Now, here's another point now this is my opinion. This isn't based on fact. The early days of AI, there was Google, there was Elon, and there was Sam Altman. And obviously Elon funded Sam, and they were friends with Sergey Brin, who was in the DeepMind. And then eventually at a point, and Dario was kind of there too, because Dario, who's doing Anthropic, he was up at OpenAI originally. And this is just a theory, right? I don't know. There's no fact based on this. But if you were about to launch a technology that is fundamentally going to change the world, I would think you would sit down and you would look at, well, what's the value in the world? Like, where is the value in an economy? And, selling tokens, like building data centers to sell tokens, to sell ChatGPT, seems to me an unprofitable enterprise. I think that that's true. I think it is. There would be some benefits in gathering data from the end user. There would also be a lot of intelligence at looking at what benefits flow from AI and what people are using it for. Now, if you read the terms and conditions of OpenAI, in there it basically says they can watch what you're doing and they can learn from that. Okay, yeah. They're a research organizer, a not-for-profit research company. Now, Sam Altman said he said in the Senate publicly, he said, "Oh no, I don't own any of OpenAI. I own zero. I do this because I love it." And he famously said that in the Senate in the US. And that is actually true. He does not own any of OpenAI. But there is a subsidiary of OpenAI, another company that is completely separate, that he has a massive holding in, a very, very large holding. Now, if you look into Sam Altman's background, Sam Altman ran, I think it was Y Combinator. So Y Combinator is one of the biggest sort of venture capital startup accelerator companies in the world. So they've invented Airbnb and, probably hundreds of companies. So that's his shtick. Now, I think what they did was they said, well, we've got these legacy organizations and these guys aren't really going to change. But if we could take over their businesses, their flows of revenue. I'll just give you an example. I think education is a $27 trillion industry worldwide across all modalities. So, so I think what they wanted to do was they wanted to slow down the world whilst they could keep going at velocity. So what would you do to slow down the world? You would give power to the bureaucrats. So the first thing they said over and over and over again was ethics, ethics, ethics. And I have never seen a new industry form faster than AI ethics. You had TED Talks, you had roundtables, you had podcasts, and you had all these people that knew jack shit about anything, didn't even understand the technology, who were all of a sudden AI ethicists. It was kind of hilarious. Now, I think they did that basically because every organization's gone, oh, we need to build these barriers, walls, committees, governance frameworks, structures. And just think about it. If you actually wanted to stop an industry from actually innovating, that's the first thing you would do. So either it was the worst change program in history, like they just didn't get it and they were just trying to be nice, or they did it on purpose. Okay.
Isn't that backed off, Tim? Is that backed off a bit?
Not really. No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say so. And the investment in data centers, now there's another little anomaly here in that a lot of the data center companies are actually separate companies to the AI companies. So there's these companies that are building these massive sets of data centers and stuff. And there's this kind of circular thing going on, like they're all buying each other's stuff. But I could see a world where those companies do go broke, but it won't actually matter because they suck all the money in from around the world. They say, hey, come and invest in AI. Everybody invests, all the money comes in, and then they sort of screw it up. And then the company goes broke. They file Chapter 11 and they transfer the assets across to, someone else. And so you might find that some of these AI companies end up with $2.3 trillion worth of data centers that they didn't even really pay for.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing I'd say is I think what is eventually going to happen is you're going to see industry level AI agentic type companies forming. And those companies are the ones that will take all the jobs. So I'm not really worried about AI coming into my org and like augmenting my thought pattern at work and then getting rid of me. I'm much more worried that someone's just going to come up with a better product in the industry I'm in, and that will flow through. So so what does that mean for you? So if you're talking about yourself, Australia is a sitting duck.
In more than one way.
And I'll tell you why. So this here is a chart. This is a very old chart, but it's basically the same. It was just one I found an image of that fit nicely. Economic complexity is the measure of all the things that you've got to do to basically unlock value in your economy. So if you're making rocket ships or autonomous cars or robots or power stations or shipping, advanced manufacturing, chip fab, all that kind of stuff, there's an enormous amount of complex things that need to happen to make that economy run. And Australia is down between Senegal and Pakistan. Last time I checked on the latest figures, we were between Kazakhstan and Pakistan. Okay.
It is the economic value that you're adding to any product that you're building. Yes.
So we take iron ore, put it on a train, stick it on a ship. And we don't even really market it here. The marketing's in Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got education. Now, okay, so we fly a person out here, we put them in a classroom, we give them a pen and a computer, and we teach them something of a book. Okay, that's probably one of the more sophisticated industries we have. Melbourne is pretty much service industries. Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra, It's really bureaucrats and service industries, and healthcare, and basically services to look after humans. If you automate those industries, you just remove jobs. There's no unlock. There's no like, oh, I'm going to build a product I'm going to export all around the world. I mean, education to some extent is, because you kind of, the money sort of comes into the country. But the other thing I'd say is most of our industries are pseudo-regulated monopolies. So think about the banks. They're all regulated like hell. Think of the telcos, regulated like hell. Power companies, regulated like hell. Education, health, regulated like hell. So how do you innovate in sectors that, one, have no economic complexity to get around? They're very unionized, and they're regulated like hell. Okay, so just think about that as a thing that you're working into if you're in Australia and you want to actually unlock some value with this technology. There's the other problem of the disposable income problem. So most people in Australia have mortgages, they've got kids in schools, they've got inflationary pressures. You might have the greatest app known to man with AI, but very few people are going to give you $15 a month. Like asking for like a subscription, like they're going to give OpenAI $20 a month before they give your little app $15 a month. So trying to build some sort of SaaS that actually makes money, very unlikely, not really going to happen. And trying to market it globally from Australia is very difficult because our social media platforms bias you based on your geographic location. So if you want to go and sell in the US, you actually kind of need to go and live in the US. Because if you tried to sell on Facebook in the US, it doesn't work. I guess you could get a VPN, blah, blah, but there's things like that. So mass market consumers don't want to give you money. Most people don't have any money. Okay, so we've got companies on one side that don't really do anything and you're just replacing their jobs and they probably don't like it. And on the consumer side, there's not a lot of money to be, people don't want to give you the money for it. So the brutal truth, selling to big companies is really, really bloody hard. And the only way you're going to get there is if they will force you down the contract path. They deal with humans on, I'm going to pay you an hourly rate, a daily rate. I'm going to pay you to do something for me. So as soon as you go in with some sort of innovative offer, that's not what they're used to, right? They're going to want you on a day rate. Now, if you've already got a job, that's really hard to sell, right? Because your time is kind of your asset. And that's the other thing you come to with this stuff is you need to think about your time as your asset, okay? So the reasons why it's really hard to get jobs in government, big corporations or government, procurement rules, okay? It's really difficult for a single person to sell to a big company unless they're hiring you on like a labor hire type model, which they're used to, okay? So you sell your time, but if you just want to sell a service, it's difficult because there's a risk you will disappear. You will just kind of get hit by a bus. A lot of companies have insurance requirements that are very expensive. So if you haven't, unless you want to go and spend thousands of dollars on insurance and you've only got your little startup, that you're just not going to tick that box. Architecture boards, they're going to look at anything you build and they're going to say, well, is it on Microsoft? Is it on Azure? Is it, rigorous? And if there's any question, so you're going to have to spend a lot of money to kind of satisfy the architectural requirements, which means you're going to need a developer team. You're going to need other people. It's expensive. Also, there's the old guard. If you run rings around everyone else, there'll be people in these organizations that stop you. They won't want you. It'll be too fast. You'll go against governance. They'll kneecap you at the first opportunity they get, and they will win. And then finally, government. Oh my God, they're slow. They're bureaucratic. It's like all those things times 10. And literally, you will spend all your time trying to sell, and you won't sell anything. And it's just like, it's just not worth it. Okay. Now, one exception I've put here is where I think they might listen. And this is what I'm seeing as an emergent thing. If there is a real crisis and you can help them with intelligence around it, or if you can train them on things, or if you can fix a fire quickly, they might hire you in some sort of consulting capacity with a bit of leverage. Okay, so traditional consulting at sort of scale, I think there's a lot of niche plays there that you could explore. So it's not absolute, but I would say don't try to go through the front door or through the tender box. Go through relationships with senior people. Now, the other model is a lot of people say, well, I can vibe code now, or I can build agents. So I want to go build some kind of SaaS, software as a service, some sort of product. I actually think this is probably the dumbest thing you could do right now. And I'll tell you why. These AI models, the purpose of a SaaS is to create an economic basis to share across multiple clients. So you find a problem you're trying to solve, you use the investment of time to create the value, and then you sell it to many clients, which reduces the cost for every individual client. Now, the one problem with it is you can't really solve a novel problem. It has to be a broad problem, because if you can't sell it to a lot of clients, you're not going to get there. But the other thing too is like, and this has been my experience looking at this stuff, is coming up with the idea of value. That is actually about 1% of the problem. Everyone in entrepreneurship thinks that that's the hardest thing. Oh, I've got this idea, and it's hilarious. They'll make you sign an NDA. They'll say, I've got this super secret idea. They won't share it. And literally no one gives a shit. If you think you're going to do a startup and you're going to have this secret idea and you're going to work on it for 12 months, then you're going to launch it and it's going to be amazing. Like the people that actually succeed at that are like basically almost zero. It's very, very true. Then there's the cost of actually building it. Now, in the past, building it was really, really expensive because you had to hire developers. You had to hire programmers, and these programmers all wanted to get fed. And so the limitation to innovation in technology was, can I pay a developer to sit there and do it? And if you've ever worked with a developer before, they don't actually kind of take a broad brief and then innovate for you. They literally want everything, like they will just stuff it up over and over again in cycles. So that's sort of like, developers just do what they're told. They're like hammers looking for nails. There's very few of them that will sort of innovate on the fly. So that's your second point. So actually building it, now that I think has become a lot easier. So that is a weapon in your toolkit, right? If you want to build something that gets people interested, like if you want to build a POC, you don't need the developer anymore. You can use AI. So just keep that one in mind. That's sort of one for the chalkboard. That's a piece of power that you can put aside. But then with SaaS, 70% of the challenge is actually selling the bloody thing. And don't underestimate this. Like you might think I've got the most wonderful platform in the world, and you put it out in the market and then no one buys it because you've only got a reach of 3 people. And those 3 people don't like it. And some people are just too stupid to know if it's any value anyway. Even if it is of value, they won't buy it. And so to sell anything, you actually need a team of people selling it for you, but you actually need enough volume on the sales to incentivize them to do that. And if you do that, they're going to take a huge amount of your profit. If you're hiring some gopher to sell your stuff, you're not going to make any profit because they're making the profit. So it's their business. It's not yours. And then there's that final point, supporting it profitably, right? If you go and sell some enterprise app with data and it's someone's thing and you sign them up, you have to support that thing profitably. If you get 2 customers and they've signed up for $20 and they want the thing running, but the servers are costing you $3,000, you're in deep shit.
You haven't got a hope. Yeah.
So, you got to like think about all these layers, and you know what? Things will change. The technology will continually change. So you need this whole team of people that are going to keep changing and pivoting. All these people are going to keep marketing. And then next week, someone bigger and uglier than you is going to come in and go, hey, that's a good idea. I'll just copy it. Like stuff all you can do about it. So unless you want to spend 5 years of your life trying this, I think it's a dumb model. I just wouldn't bother. I don't have the energy for it. Forget it. And I have tried. Oh, you'll get an investor. Oh, that's really easy. You'll go up to an investor. I actually think this is even monolithically more stupid. And the reason it's more stupid is, in the first 12 months, you develop an idea. So you start off with your little notebook and you think you're an entrepreneur and you write your idea down. And then you literally spent the next 6 months running around begging for an investment. Now, at the moment, investment's like a tide, like it goes in and it goes out, okay? To get the investment, they're going to make you dance like a chicken, okay? They're going to make you write packs, and they're going to want business cases, and they're going to want projections, and they're going to want real revenue, and they're going to want... So basically, the only point they're actually going to come in Australia and give you money is if you're already making a profit and you're giving the profit to them.
Yeah.
In the US, it's a little different because they sort of, they throw money around more freely, and they actually just back people. They back teams, really. And they kind of like, they have a portfolio. But over here, the only people that are investing are people that want you, like basically want the money you're already making. They want a return. That's the only thing they're interested in. And then there's the other problem of they take this slice of your business. Now, there are, I won't go into this, but there's a whole bunch of options you can do here. You can actually put like options on businesses, meaning they don't get a shareholding until you hit a certain level. That's probably a much, if you just give them equity when they've only given you money, like that's probably the dumbest thing you could ever do. Like you have to get them on a thing to get them to a point. But they're going to take a chunk of your business. And finally, then you will probably work 70 hours a week working for not much to build their company. And then they'll probably sue you and take it off you.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the game. So I would say with AI, if you can't fund your own wage, is it wise to give up a wage and hand 50% of your company to someone else? No.
No.
So I wouldn't do any of these things. I would only look at what can I do in AI where I can literally do a transaction for you and you give me money. That's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in other models. So I've been quite negative so far, but I'm going to talk about the back door. So your best investor, I think, is your current employer. Okay? They pay your wage and they give you stability.
Yep.
They demand 40 hours a week. They want you to work hard for them. And I don't think you should not work hard for them. In fact, I think if you're going to do any entrepreneurship while you're working, they should benefit from it because you have more skills. And so I think you should try to impart as much knowledge as you can, share as you can, be open as you can, like be a good citizen. These people are paying for your electric, your food, your home. That is an ethical relationship. That's a good relationship. But I would also say if they own 9 to 5, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. to midnight is potentially yours.
Mm.
So there's no reason why you can't carve out time. Now, I get up and go for a walk at about 6 o'clock every morning, and I do all my social media stuff while I'm walking. And so I have a whole bunch of posts that go out during the day, and they're all pre-written. And it's actually getting easier because I'm using AI to kind of help me, just sort of spin stuff up a bit. But I sort of write what I want to say, and then it says it, and then I tune it and then send it. So it's not like a complete editing thing anymore. And so what I would say is, get up every day and have some sort of purpose that you're trying to solve. It might just be learning AI. It might be kind of thinking about business ideas. It might be iterating. And I think if you have that discipline and you do something every day, if you talk to someone new every day, you do something, you learn something, you push yourself, then over time, it's shocking how much you can achieve in a short period of time.
How much better you get, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say with social media, like be a creator, don't be a consumer. If you're on social media just consuming, you're missing the point. You should be creating in some sort of capacity. So AI now, it's this real conundrum. It's going to give you enormous powers to do stuff that you couldn't do before. So if you don't think you know how to do marketing, AI can teach you. If you don't know how to code, AI can teach you. If you don't know how to build a website, AI can teach you. If you don't know how to do a pipeline and sell to people, you don't know how to write emails, outbound, inbound, you don't know how to have a discussion, AI can teach you.
Yeah.
So what I would be saying is like, it's actually, the biggest challenge is not having the capacity to do something now. It's actually having a direction you want to go. Like, what are you going to, someone's given, Imagine if you went back 1,000 years and you walked into the temple of Rome or wherever it was, and you said, hey, I've got this thing in my pocket. It's called an iPhone. And on it, I have this thing, and you can ask it any question. And it has all this futuristic stuff like coding and programming and all of these cool things. Do you think that the emperor would not want that?
Definitely. Yeah.
It would have ended up in the control of the most elite and most powerful people on earth.
Yeah.
And these people, these Silicon Valley people, have given you that. They've just given it to you. You've now got it in your pocket. So it's up to you to use it. The other thing I'd say too is think carefully about your job and your career. You know, I've always tried to strive to get to the very top of my career. But with events and things like that, sometimes you say, well, where am I best placed at the moment to benefit my organization? But, you know, you might find teaching is your thing. You might find, I want to teach people these kinds of concepts and stuff. And you might find that's fulfilling and that's what you want to do. And so you end up going down that path. But you might want to do the entrepreneurial stuff on the side because you find the bureaucracy and the governance of an organization too hard to deal with. So I would think critically about your career and think, you know, don't just think, oh, I have to use this to get to the top. All right. If you want to do a side hustle or you want to make some money on the side, there are actually some things you need to do. You can't just go out in the market and sell. So you do need an ABN. You need some vehicle to bill someone. That's super important. Fortunately, that takes about 5 minutes. You ring an accountant and you say, I want to set up a business, and they'll do it that day. It's done. Like, I think they charge you about $300. Done. So you got an ABN. Okay. Now, even kids can get ABNs. That's crazy, but they can. I don't think necessarily you need a company necessarily. Like, so, you know, just an ABN with sole trader, that's probably enough. And if you haven't got like revenue and employees and stuff, companies, there's a whole bunch of costs and
you don't know.
Yeah. So get advice on that. But yeah, it's really good, I think, to have a bank account and a credit card you might use for expenses. This is purely so if you get revenue, it can go somewhere that you can track. And if you put all your costs on a credit card or some sort of bank card or something, you know where your costs are going to. And you want to be able to maintain that so that when it comes around to tax time, it's very easy. You just export the data, send it to your accountant, and then they deal with it. Okay? Yeah. You don't necessarily need MyOb and all that crap, but just inflows and outflows. And I would recommend getting an accountant. I always used to do my tax myself. I was always just a PAYE employee, didn't think I needed it. But when you start to mix business life and work life together, an accountant can kind of do it down the line, and you're not going to end up with an audit and problems. Like, you just want, like, the tax office trusts an accountant more. Now,
yeah.
The cool thing about setting these structures up is even if you're not making any revenue, they'll give you a bit of time. So if you're going to spend money on AI and stuff and it's in deference to something, you kind of need revenue to write it off. But if you start making some revenue, you can kind of lower your costs. So it's a good way to manage your outflows. You probably also need some minimal business infrastructure. So, having an email that's not your personal one would be useful. Having some sort of ability to build a website is useful. And there are tons of tools you can use to do this. I wouldn't bother doing anything custom. I'd just build something you can deploy really quickly. I like Notion and Super because I think they give me utility beyond just the product, and it's just super easy to do. You obviously need a domain name to go on top of that. And social media is one, having a beachhead is probably a cool thing. Now, if you've actually got some sort of other social media strategy, that is a really useful thing. But these are kind of the minimums, right? But this one here is probably, you could probably get away with that for $15 a month. This one's probably $15 a month. This one's probably $30 a year. This one's free. Okay. And the other thing I'd say is then stop. Okay. A lot of people, when they go into startup land, they go, oh my God, I need this. I need a business card and I need an office and I need a car and I need all, sign writing on everything. Like until you get revenue, like even some of these, like a website, like an email is like a minimum, I think. I think you need an email because you need to be able to communicate with people. But don't go too far. Don't spend a year validating and building some startup if you've got no revenue. You sort of got to validate stuff before you get into it. Then I want to talk about everything is an opportunity in AI. Literally everything. Okay. So every business you interact with, every process you observe, everything online, everything that's written on social media, every person on LinkedIn, every conference and trade show. You wouldn't believe how many trade shows there are in Melbourne that are just for free. You could rock up to a trade show, you could talk to a whole bunch of people, you could find a connection, and you could have some sort of commercial relationship. Local shops. You might have a shopping strip. They're all businesses. They've all got challenges in their business. Every complaint you hear online, every inefficiency you notice. Okay, the trick is here, you need to be able to cut through the noise and identify things you actually want to talk to people about. Okay, now it's kind of wild if you think about it. Every single process in the world is now a potential target for AI automation or AI research or whatever you want to do. And so actually then thinking, and I think that's where the real power comes in. Because what you start to realize is in the old days, you looked at tenders and you responded to a tender, and then you fielded a team of 3 and you charged them $100,000, and it took 6 weeks. Now I think we're going to move towards a world of you're going to have more free agent people like doing things with agency. It's not about your knowledge anymore. It's actually about what you can achieve, and it's who you can persuade. Okay, but there's an investment involved in doing anything, so you kind of have to be discerning or tasteful about it. So there are preconditions to getting paid. Only a human can approve a payment to you. They might do it as an agent of a company, or they might do it out of their own bank account. But at the end of the day, to get someone to pay you is a really hard thing. It's particularly if, like I said at the start, it's hard to contract with companies or government. Okay, those guys spit out money all day long. So you don't really realize most of our economy is like a derivative of government or regulation. There will be a lot of humans out there that want to pay you but can't. Okay, so you might meet someone at a trade show that's like tremendously interested in what you're doing, and they might talk to you, and they might spend 6 months talking to you, and then they'll take their proposal up to the governance board, and the governance board will say no. So don't assume just because you're talking to someone that they've actually got the power to pay you. A lot of organizations, you need to be on some sort of panel. You need an employment contract. You need to go through some process. That can take weeks or months. And the sales cycle is likely to be long, even if the board of the company congratulates you. I've seen this over and over again. Government will give a startup an award and go, you're the best company in the world. And then next week, they'll put out some, fund that the government's supporting. They'll put a perfect application in. The government turns around and goes, oh, nah. Do you have someone else giving you $1 million? If you do, we'll give you some money, but otherwise we won't.
Yeah.
So this is where I'd be really cautious. Like responding to bids and responding to tenders, they all suck your time. And most of them don't lead to anything. So then you're questioning, well, is it even worth even trying? You know what I mean? Like maybe you need to sort of shake things up and drive the demand the other way. So who is empowered to pay you very freely? I think, this is my personal view, I think the most people that are most likely to buy from you are small business owners and people that control their enterprise entirely. They can just literally log into the web banking and pay you. And I think they overlap with private company decision makers. So people with real power within private companies. So the guy that's driving the 200 series has got the boss's car park. He can just pay you. So he's probably someone you want to talk to. And the other thing is fellow entrepreneurs or people that like to see themselves as entrepreneurs. And a lot of these people are the same person, right? They're people that are, and I think this is the opportunity. You can sell a service to someone, or you can form a relationship with someone and build some sort of partnership with them. Now, that partnership doesn't have to be, meaning we start a new company, but if you can sell a product idea to someone that delivers immediate value for them, but they see upside like an entrepreneurial angle, that can be a really, really powerful place to be. Okay. And again, government, large corporations, regulated monopolies, they're not impossible, but they're just going to want to push you down the employment type path. Now, there is a whole bunch of complexities in selling, right? And I think if you had to log it all into one word, it would be trust. So if you just cold call someone, they don't know who you are. So you have to build trust with people first. They might not even understand the value you're offering. Okay. So even if you have an amazing idea, they'll question it, or they'll think your assumptions are wrong, or sometimes they're just clueless. And there genuinely might not be any value. You might have missed the point as well. So even good work goes underappreciated. Do they see the value in for the money? So the price perception is everything. And sometimes, I think sometimes if you price things too cheaply, they'll think, oh, this guy's not serious. There's no value in this because he's not putting a premium on it. But also your price could be too high and they just go, no, I can't see the value. I'd rather just do it with a pencil. The next one is humans want control and agency. They do not want coercive control over them. So if you come in and say, oh, I'm going to be a service provider for you and I'm going to charge you this much per month and I'm going to control it all, and then you're like this pain in their backside that's going to be in their business doing whatever, they're not going to like that. So don't sell to them that way. Don't go, well, I've got the keys to the castle, so haha. They're not going to like that. They don't want that coercive control. So that's like a lens to think about when you approach people. But many want control over others. So they don't want you pulling the wool over their eyes, but they want to pull the wool over yours. And I think that's where greed comes in. Now, greed is a problem, but it's also an opportunity. Because if you can tap into someone's greed, meaning if you show them something and they see a path to value that you see, you might build something, an AI idea or something, and show it to someone. Now, you might know full well what the full scope of the value is to the enterprise or that person. But maybe you don't want to tell them the whole thing. Maybe you only want to tell them half. Because if you say half, but they see the rest, they might see it as an opportunity to get leverage over you. So they could cut themselves in. And I think that's where there's a real opening in the AI space. It's like, so think about people that have autonomous power, people that are already up for some sort of innovation. They put themselves on a pedestal going, oh, I can sell this everywhere. And some of them can sell it. So they're going to be like a vehicle for you to sell on your behalf. But also, if they see this as something that they can get control over, as long as you negotiate so that you have some benefit out of it. And I would also say that, like, be willing to share. If you've got someone who can put money in your bank account for little input, pick up the money, take it off the table. And maybe it's the case of they want some control, maybe give them that control or give them some of that control. So then they're incentivized to actually drive the thing forward on your behalf, and then you don't have to do the sales cycle over and over again. So think about every client could actually be your salesman as well. Yeah, so the formula, this is the formula I'm sort of thinking of following. So you want to give people a view to value that you sell short, but they can see. So if they get the hook and they get that, if they see the benefit and they think they're like an active participant in it, that's a really good thing. You want to frame things as if you are naive to the potential they see. If you walk into an office, it's just psychology. Like if you go in and you run rings around people and you know more than them and you just tell them what to do, what we need to do, their back's going to arc up and they're going to think you're uncontrollable. Yeah. So give them a little bit, be a bit naive, ask questions. And asking questions is probably the most value they can give you at that point. Other than paying you to use it or to be your salesman, being naive is really important because being naive actually gives you an ability to pivot if you're wrong. Or if they might give you an idea or a take on it that you hadn't considered. So I would say don't be concrete in your path, kind of like engage with people, give them value, and then spitball with them and see where it's going to go. Then you want to find a path where money flows to you but leads to revenue or cost reduction for them.
Yeah.
So if they're not getting revenue or cost reduction, you forget it. It's not going to work out. It's not going to work out for anyone. So, but you need to make sure that whatever you're doing, there is a path to revenue for you. Otherwise, what's the point? You're just helping them out. The only exception to that one is if you can go into a community and talk to people about things, that is as good as sales. Because if you teach someone something, there might be flow-on opportunities by the people that come and be in your orbit. So I would say the more you're talking out in the market, if you're just flat out giving people value, people are going to much trust you because they're going to go, well, you know, his heart's in the right place. And I think that's a really important point. The other thing is you need to make sure that once a transaction occurs, you're not holding the downsides. So you got to be really careful with this. Like if you sell something, but then you have to like every week get on a call and like maintain the thing and the client wants something else, you've got to have an endpoint. You've got to have like, well, that's the endpoint now. There's more money if something else happens. If you don't do that, you're going to end up, it's going to cost you money and it could be risky as well. You could end up in dispute. Number 5, ideally they are incentivized to sell a product on your behalf. So obviously, if you can cut them into the revenue stream and they will go and sell on your behalf, that is half the challenge solved because they'll be motivated to do it because they believe in it. They're not just going to charge you as a salesman, which you won't be able to afford.
So I guess, look, one point underlying all this, Tim, essentially is that it is a repeatable model. And
yes.
That it has to be repeatable. And it is a problem that many people are trying to solve. I think that is absolutely the underlying thing, because otherwise you'll end up solving problems for one unless that, the problem you solved, you can see that you can solve many more problems. That is a different thing. Otherwise, normally a problem that some community or some cohort clearly has a similar kind of a challenge, like we were discussing all the restaurants. If you are targeting as a group, could be one. All right.
And the other, there is a play on that, Sanjeev. Looking at pre-existing networks that all have a problem, and even like industry associations and stuff. Yep. Industry associations are always looking to support their members. Now, there is a double-edged sword here. Some industry associations want control over their members. So if you come in with something that's different,
they don't like it.
So you'll end up with that blocking behavior. But you're absolutely right. And this is where I think social media becomes really important. Most people think I need to keep my business idea a secret. I need to not help people, and I need to like completely hold it to myself, and then I sell it to one by one. I would actually say do the opposite. I would say find the value, publicly state the value, share what the hell you're doing, show people how you're doing it, and just through natural like people expect to pay something for a service, right? It's like human nature. They don't think they're going to go and build some AI tool themselves because they don't know. They don't know how, right? So I
Yep.
would say,
all these trade shows that you're talking about, conferences that are there, these free conferences, you can possibly present there along with one or two people who have seen the value of it as well.
yeah,
Because I think if you do it together with somebody, then actually you have somebody who's standing next to you and saying that, hey, I've seen this. This can truly work as well. So I think these two things you can probably add to your list, I would imagine. Because your point on trade shows is very valid. Huh? There's so many of these free things that are there. And they actually like other people to come in. And if you have a social media site, like you were saying, Tim, and if they find your value proposition attractive, they would want you to come in and actually present over there as well.
yeah, and often at conferences, like there's the main stage, but then there's all these other booths they got to fill.
Absolutely.
And like they're hungry for those because they're in the business of selling a show. And if there's no presenters, it's shit. So
Yep. Absolutely.
So there's some rules of engagement I put here. Saying no is one of your most important skills. So someone says, "Oh, could you just build me an agent and it'll take you 10 hours and it'll cost you $300 in tokens," and you just say, "Yeah, no worries, I'll do it," and you're not going to make anything out of it. That's pretty dumb, right?
What's the point?
Don't go and do that. You've got to make sure at least it's fair, right? And you only repeat work if there's mutual value. Don't let anybody get leverage over you unless you're really considered. Like a lot of people go, "Oh, I want to do a startup," so they go and get a partner, and then they set up their company and they got a partner, and it's just a friggin' disaster because that person could be an absolute nong, doesn't know anything, doesn't contribute anything, and they're just literally going to drag you and control you, and you're just going to end up in a legal fight like on day one, and you're just going to waste all your time. So I would actually go, you know what, I've got an ABN. If you want to work with me, we can, we'll sign an MOU that we're going to work together or something. So there's some formal, whatever, but put a date on it. We're going to work for a month on this thing. And at the end of the month, we can both walk. And I'm sort of at the stage where I think you're actually better not to sort of partner with people. You're better off to sort of go, well, let's share revenue. We're going to discreetly define something. We're both going to go after that thing. And at the end of that thing, those things are going to be a revenue share. Now, if you share that revenue and it's profitable, then it would make sense to maintain a partnership. But you've always got that leverage to go, you know what, screw you, I'm out of here.
Get it out.
Yeah. Be in and out, don't overstay. So obviously you've got to try things, but you got to know when to go, hey, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't spend months and months perfecting something. I would say spin something up, see if it works, if it doesn't, and iterate. Do not just perfect and polish and whatever else. And if the person is like pedantic, "Oh, no, it has to be perfect, you have to spend 60 months, I'd be saying, well, you're paying for it.
Yeah.
Waste of your time. The value you deliver should be guaranteed. So work on things that are not completely speculative. If you sort of say, "Oh, I'm going to build an agent that's going to help you with the cattle prices or whatever, and it's going to like improve your farm output," but you don't really know if that's true or not, that's probably not the best thing to work on. It's more like you sort of want bets that are kind of, you're very confident that there's some value. Partner with clients. So clients can actually become some of your best partners, I think, in this, because you're essentially like, you actually need change agents, because this is a change gig, right? AI's new and you're trying to drive change. So find clients that are not just going to consume the service, they probably will help you develop the service or whatever. The other thing is deliver and move on.
Excuse me.
You don't want something to go on forever. You want to sort of be able to deliver and walk off. Otherwise, you end up, you're spending all your week maintaining things. Unless they're paying you a lot of money, that's fine. But yeah. And I think in this AI world, maximally helping people is the best thing to do. Because I just reckon there's almost like there's almost too many opportunities, but there's also too many constraints. So it's like a many to problem. You got like the old world saying no. You've got like all this innovation saying yes. But if you are really limited and you only want to talk to one person because of your IP, and this is what Sanjeev goes as people in companies are doing, I actually think you're only going to find these value points very seldomly, and you're actually not going to get anywhere. I think you'd be better off to be like more open. Therefore, it creates like a greater sort of surface attack area for opportunity to come out. And you might find the ideas that come out, it's kind of like if everything's an opportunity and every human's an opportunity, then go and talk to a lot of people and do a lot of things. Because what will happen is you'll find the nuggets, and you might have to look at, you might have to salute the creek 20 times, but then all of a sudden you'll find a nugget, and it's like, bam, I found a nugget. Now I want to repeat that nugget over and over. You go and say to the conference, I found this nugget, look at my nugget. And everyone goes, I want a nugget too. And then they're lining up, and then you're sort of like giving them nuggets, or you're giving them the opportunity to get a nugget. So, yeah. So, and the other thing too is if you have a partner and you have to ask for permission all the time, I think you're already.
Yeah.
Like, you can collaborate, you can stay in your own lanes, you can share revenue. There's a start and end. Very few legals. As soon as you're starting to do legals and signing NDAs and doing all this crap, it's if you talk to any entrepreneur worth of salt, they won't sign an NDA ever. They just don't sign it, because that next week they'll come up with some idea and someone else will go, well, I have claim over that. Don't do it. This has just done a sales thing for me, but basically the elements of this are in the RSP stack. So society, behaviors, persuasion, AI, business, social media, and ethics. They're the layers. All the techniques I talked about tonight are actually in those, kind of built out. And what I would recommend you do is, if you can feed information like that into AI, AI can help you with all of these things. So finding leads, writing emails, finding conferences, getting out there in business, talking to people. And one of the cool things that I did find when I was doing all the research for this was start local. And it might sound completely ridiculous, but if you're like Tim and you're from suburb X, and then you go down to suburb X and you say, hey, I want to do something in suburb X, but I'm from suburb X, people are much more likely to give you a go, because you're part of a community. So communities are a really great place to start. They get you known as a thing. People will ring you up and they'll open doors. You won't even know where you're headed. But I would just go with that open philosophy, teach people. Because at the end of the day, the lubricant for this is actually humans saying yes. So if people like you, you're much more likely to be successful. And the final thing I'd say is, don't rip people off.
No.
Okay? I personally don't think you should have a website saying, oh, I'm an AI expert and I've got this and I've got that. I actually think you should be discreet about it, and you should be sort of quiet, because it gives you tactical flexibility. You can kind of sell to anyone at any cadence and velocity. So I think discretion is important. But you don't want to go and hustle people, because if you hustle people, you're just going to end up in legal drama, or you're going to end up in fights, and it's not going to be friendly. So, and in business, if you deal with people in business, people are going to try and control you. You also need to be strong and know when to say back off. Otherwise, you're going to. So that's what I had for tonight. Bruce, you've been in business a long time. What lessons would you have to open relationships and stuff?
Well, I've always found the personal contact, and you just build these relationships over a fair time. Like, asking, inquiring, talking regularly, doing these sort of things really makes a difference. And I think people realise, to use an old adage, you're fair dinkum. When you show a bit of interest, you understand what they do. Without waffling on, I've sort of got a fairly, when I ring someone on a business type call, I like to sort of have a quick chat, but I like to get onto it. Get on, not waste their time. I mean, often these people are professionals or they're busy business owners. They don't really want to talk about the weather and all the other shit that's going on. They just want to, how you going, what's up, and then move on. So I think it's selling yourself as well. Part of it's selling yourself. And then being able to, understand what their life is about too, without getting into total debt. That's my belief. But, it's, I think everybody's got struggles. Currently, most people I talk to have got, struggles with price of fuel and, uncertainty. Everybody's got this uncertainty in their belly. They don't know what the outcome of their business is going to be. Everybody I talk to is, wondering what the next month and 2 months and 3 months and years going to be like. Are they going to remain in business? Are they, how are they going to cope? So yeah, I think that's sort of part of it.
You just gave me an idea, Bruce. Last week we did the extrapolation of the crisis.
Yep, I thought that was great.
I wonder if we could next week we could extend on that, make some modeling of that, but then we could look at some different sectors and we could see the impacts, and we could maybe find some intelligence on those companies and what they should probably be doing to respond to the crisis.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be an opportunity to have conversations, because I agree with you. I think in the next few weeks, there's going to be a lot of organizations that are going to be like, what the hell do I do? And a lot of organizations have like an annual report, and you can sort of look at their revenues and their costs. And I reckon if you were able to model the broader macroeconomic effect on their business and come up with some strategies of how they could try to, in what order would they communicate things and what should they do and how should they go about restructuring or, battening down the hatches for this crisis.
Yep.
I think that could be an awesome lever to go and talk to some businesses. And just imagine if you went and talked to them and you gave them the heads up, this stuff's coming, and then I think you would instantly get trust. Like they'd be like, well, this is interesting. And I think that would get you access. So some would freak out and say, well, that's, I don't know if that's right or whatever, some of them. But I think small business people, would be really hot onto it. And if you could say, well, maybe we could work on, what are those key pain points in your business that we want to solve for? And with a little bit of impact, you might be able to go in and train different people to look at different things or make better decisions to try to get through the crisis. I think that could be like a really repeatable service.
Yeah.
Kind of like a risk modeling type offering. I think that could be a really interesting one.
The thing is, you've got someone like Trump who really, let's be honest, what's tomorrow bring with a bloke like that? Who knows? Tomorrow morning I've got a meeting with the two sons, and we're going to talk about our exposure and what we're going to do with our winter cropping program this year. Normally I wouldn't be in that position. Normally I wouldn't worry. I'd just do it. It's sort of all pre-laid out. Now I'm starting to question, what's the end game? How much margin are we going to have? And everybody else is in that same position. Like I went down and filled 4 jerry cans for my ride on Murray and my petrol pump. $220 for jerry cans today. You know, the lady I spoke to there, she said, "Oh, both servos I've just been to are out of petrol, out of fuel."
Mm.
You know, it's I think every business is going to be completely impacted by this. I think those who are ignoring it, or well, they can't ignore it, let's be honest. Those who are maybe not applying themselves to it are really at risk. I think we're going to see a lot of foreclosures out of all this.
No, without doubt, Bruce, you're 100% right. I don't think this is finishing anytime soon now. The
No,
way it is going, you
No.
know, the ego is too big on both
No.
sides. It ain't
Oh,
going.
yeah, 100%.
Trump just gave them 48 hours or he's going to take out all their power grid.
Yeah, but he won't do that. I can tell you that, because if he does that, you know, the world goes to shits, man. Honestly, that'll be too much, because, you know, Iran, there's nothing stopping them now, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That's the whole challenge. You have two
Surely-
sides. Yeah.
Surely some sense has got to prevail.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Bruce.
Surely some sense has to prevail.
Oh, yeah, but who will bring in the sense is the question, Bruce. It ain't Trump and it ain't Iran. So it
Yeah.
has to be some third party, has to be the GCC which steps in, if you ask me. It's not Israel as well, because
No.
so these three are definitely not going in. So there has to be a fourth party, probably the GCC, if you ask me, because they are the ones who are truly getting impacted, although, of course, the whole world is getting impacted.
Yeah.
But if some crap happens now, it is going to be, the brunt has to be borne by the GCC actually more than anybody else.
Yeah. What do you
Because
call it? GCC?
GCC is all those states all put together. It is called the Gulf.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yep.
yeah.
I know. Yep.
So
Yep.
all these countries put together, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, all of them. And to me, they have to actually step in and tell Trump and Israel, you guys stop first. If you don't stop, these guys are not stopping as well. It's completely foolish that you go after power grid. Means that you're basically going after the people actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very different war
The
than
civilians.
the civilians. And I don't understand. All the civilians typically get together then, you know, if you do anything like that, then they will get behind the leader actually, which is
Yes.
exactly what you don't want now.
Yeah.
So I just don't get it. Where did it start and where are we heading? God only knows what's going on.
Well, you know, if it keeps going, I mean, farmers can't afford the inputs. You know, we're going to sow a winter crop. We're not very big at what we do.
Oh, yes.
What happens when we get to harvest? If this isn't sorted out, what's going to happen when we can't afford to harvest the bloody thing?
Yep. No,
You know,
absolutely.
what about chemicals? You know, we use
Pesticides, fertilizers. There's no fertilizers.
I don't like chemicals, but we use them and fertilizers.
Yeah.
You know, when we can't get them, what's going to happen?
Yeah, people don't understand the ramifications. They're far beyond oil, actually.
I reckon, you know, all the things I'm 66, all the things in my life, this is probably the biggest I've seen, you know, it's the most worrying.
Without doubt.
Do you remember the fuel crisis back in the late 70s or early 80s?
Oh, actually, I wasn't here, so
Right.
Well,
you know, everybody used to drive a V8 and we all had V8 boats and everything, right? Next week, they're all driving Datsun 120Ys. You know, it took...
And now it's EVs.
Now it is easy.
That's right. It took about 8 years or 5 or 6 years to get back to it. But, you know, this is next level.
This is next level. This is 100% next level. And, you know, I don't think Australia ever thought about this as well. So we have no preparation for it. There are other countries which have, you know, storage for at least 4 to 6 months. We have for 28 days, 30 days. I keep on hearing, and nothing beyond that.
I personally feel the United States of America and the Americas have awesome energy supplies, awesome water supplies, awesome agricultural resources, awesome intellectual property. And they've got relatively rich neighbors to their north and their south, particularly Canada, etc.
Yep.
And I think for the last 50 years, they have been kind of like mortgaging off little, like they'll sort of mortgage off a paddock and then another paddock and then another paddock and another paddock. And it's in the form of, the US dollar. They're giving these. So the entire economy of the world is really just derivative of bonds.
Yep.
They've grown Asia and they've grown the Middle East and they've grown Europe and they've, done the projects in Germany and, Japan and, but the problem is what used to be like the source of their power, the US dollar, has actually turned into kind of a weapon used against them, because now it's like they've given the means of production to another country. And while it's in US dollars, it kind of works because you have to keep buying the bonds and the debt keeps going up. But as soon as the Chinese and the India and Brazil and all those guys started doing BRICS, it started to undermine. Like, one, they have to carry the debt load.
Yeah.
Still got to fund the military.
$.
And they've got then they don't actually have complete control, because obviously these other countries are. I mean, China is doing amazing things in manufacturing and stuff. And I think we're on the cusp of tremendous unlock in terms of robotics and AI.
Oh, yes.
Elon today had the Terafab. I highly recommend you watch the Terafab thing. He's talking about putting 100 terawatts of power in space every year.
Oh, yeah.
So this is data centers in space. They're going to fire the satellites off the friggin' moon on a bloody out into deep space with robots and stuff. It's absolutely wild what they're doing. And they're going to it's like 1,000 times more chips than the rest of the world combined in a factory. So I don't believe that's just Elon. I think that's the US. That's kind of Team USA. And I think the economy now, if they launch that technology into the legacy economy, they're going to end up with inflationary hell and the economy's going to collapse. Everything's going to blow up. So I actually think they primed this during COVID. I reckon they did everything they could to indebt the world as much as possible during COVID. It was $1 trillion in debt and 200 billion for Victoria, and every jurisdiction in the world was debt after 2008. They primed the pig. And now this is designed, because what happens is the one thing to do to destroy a derivative-based economy is to destroy the real economy. If you destroy the real economy, the derivative-based economy collapses. Yeah. I think this will be perfectly calibrated. It'll be bad enough to actually make the people squeal like crazy. So it's going to be terribly bad. I think it's actually going to be awful. But at the end of it, they'll have the solution. And the solution will be, we're going to put things on a blockchain and we're going to write off all these debts and we're going to reset all the economies of the world. The problem is that they're in a sort of an existential war with China and Russia and Iran. I actually think they're just taking Iran off the table. Because if those three countries all went to war at once, the US is in trouble. Yeah. You take out Iran and smash it, and I reckon Saudi Arabia knows it. So I think that group, Sanjeev, is going to back America fully. I think the Europeans are now starting to come in. I think they will try to do it. They are actually trying to stop the war by strangling. This war is all about China.
I'm not going to say anything because I just don't know where it is heading, and I don't know whether they can strangle it to the extent that they think they can. That is the big issue. Because to me, you know what, one does not really know what Iran has and what they can do to their neighboring countries. And this can really they'll go after the desalination plants, which means that there'll be no water and no power. Can you imagine what is going to happen to the people over there?
They're going to have to leave.
Yeah, that's exactly the point.
So where do they go?
So if that actually happens, Australia is completely screwed. Because
that is exactly
a derivative of a derivative. We get all our oil from Asia, all of it.
All of it comes from there.
This is just madness.
Yeah, it's a world war.
That's why my hope is, and I have a bet with my wife, I think that in the next week or two, there'll be some sort of a declaration of ceasefire or something. Because if it doesn't happen, this is going to go to complete shits, actually.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as I said to you earlier on, I cannot, in the life of me, think of one business that can escape all this.
No.
You know, every business owner is faced with these problems, and they're
Yep.
significant. You know, they're not something you can just ride out. These are significant problems.
No, you can imagine, Bruce, they're already talking about working from home.
Oh,
Can you believe that? Because they
yeah,
think there'll be no.
yeah.
That's going to solve the problem.
What the hell?
But there's going to
Right
be no deals anyway. So
But, you know, I worked out, my mate drove to Wangaratta and back the other day. It cost him $180 just to drive to Wangaratta and back. And he goes, bloody hell, $180?
Seriously.
You know,
but at what point, Bruce, do people like mine? I had a Navara that was 80 liters,
yeah,
which was at $240 now. That would
Yeah.
just do, and I used to use that like more than a tank a week, I reckon.
how
It
do
was
you think the
very
old F truck
nice.
goes at 280 litres? You know, I mean, I only use it for work and stuff, but shit, 280 litres, so it's 300, basically 300 litres. So it's $900 to fill it.
And
You know.
people don't get it that there are many jobs you can't do by sitting at home.
No.
That is the other thing.
No.
You can imagine white collar jobs, some of them can be done, but many other jobs can't be done by sitting at home at all. So I don't know what people are thinking, actually.
We don't get into, sowing these crops and keeping cattle moving. And did I say the other week, $8 a kilometre now for a single, for a prime mover with a single trailer. $8 a kilometre. Right. We used to have B doubles only not that long ago. B double. So if you had a B double and your contract would be $7 a kilometre, now a single trailer is $8 a kilometre. I don't even know what the B doubles were. So a road train would be probably $10 or $12 a kilometre.
Oof.
So you've got to pay to get your produce out of wherever you're sending it. You've got to pay $12 a kilometre.
My God.
So every 100 kilometres, if he's $10, is $1,000.
So what you have to do is you have to eat only local stuff. I'm just saying.
Because a lot of the produce comes from the northern areas, the central west and the northern areas.
No, I remember a time, it was only a year or two back when I read they actually threw off all the avocados. I think it was somewhere in Queensland, because they were saying that the price of avocado was so low and they had so much of production that the cost of bringing them to Victoria was absolutely not worth it. So they would rather throw it.
Yeah.
Bruce, I went to Costco today and I bought $500 worth of meat.
Yes.
Minced sausages, steak, chicken, chuck beef, like just a $500 worth of meat in bulk.
Yep.
What do you reckon that's going to be worth in a month's time?
Who knows?
Oh, that's why you bought it, is it? Oh,
yeah. I'm thinking I'm not going to be able to get it. That could be a problem. Because at the end of it, everyone always whinges about price, but if it's at a price, it means you're still getting it.
Yeah, that's right.
To the point where there just doesn't exist. There's not going to be enough beef.
That's what I said to my mate tonight while we're having a beer. He goes, I'm still going away, he's just going to Japan. Then he goes, I'm still going on holidays. I said, yeah, that's great. As long as he can get the fuel, he can afford to pay for it.
Yeah.
If he can't get it. The thing is with beef, the supply chains are already happening, right? So the price has just got to go up because people can't stop. So if you stop, like all the abattoirs work, the trucks don't work. The farmers who are growing these cattle just don't work. I think you'll find you'll get it, but it'll just be expensive.
Yeah, it'll
You
be
know, we
more.
got $9 a kilo for our cattle a while ago. So, you know, that's a live weight. So, you know, everything's happening now. What do? You can't stop.
Yeah.
But if there's no fuel, like, you
Yeah.
know, and this electric bullshit about farmers going to electric. On our farm, we've got a little swirl line that runs for 60 k's, right? No one can plug all this shit in for that. Half the time it doesn't even work. So, you know, like, what do you do there?
No, so I think
I really don't know what's going to happen with. I think land value is going to come down. If this goes on, farms will come down, businesses will go broke, and values will come down. I don't know. It's just.
no, no, you're right. Nobody expected, interest rate to keep on going up.
Yep.
And I can tell you it'll go up actually. There is no other way to do it, in fact, because inflation is
Yeah.
not going to stop now. There's no chance in hell. And anyhow, people are not able to afford. And the government was giving away money just like that. So that was the other thing. So
Yep.
I think
Yep.
it is not going to. It's going to.
This could be the opposite, though. This could be because they got no money, so I don't know how they can't stimulate.
No.
Foreclosures, man. That is what is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I live near the Yarra Valley Chocolatery, right,
Yep.
in Yarra Glen, and the bloody place was packed yesterday. So how does that work?
They're probably all out there in their EVs.
Well,
No,
I don't
because
know.
people have a lot of money, Bruce. This is a country which has two kinds of people.
Yeah.
Very clearly now.
Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make
No,
absolutely.
it just does not. Anyway, I don't know. I think it'll be very, very interesting
Yep.
to see what happens.
Yep. We'll see.
know.
I bought
I,
this.
The good thing with our friend Tim is he has bought 2 EVs.
yeah,
This is
even I'm looking at one.
This is
Sanjeev,
my solar panel. This is my solar.
what's this thing?
It's a solar panel for my Starlink, so I've got a battery coming as well. So when it all goes to shit, I'll be good.
No, yeah, that is true actually. But Starlink is bloody good. That's what I've been told by everybody who uses it.
Yeah. I got up this morning and I got on the internet and started looking up electric cars. Now, for a bloke who just doesn't like those things and has diesels and likes turbochargers and all that sort of thing, I nearly had to go and wash my mouth out. But I spent about an hour looking up electric cars, and I thought, oh, BYD Shark would be good. Then I thought, no, it's no good. I've got to get something else. So,
The challenge, Bruce, is that the country hasn't built the infrastructure for fast charging as well. So that is the other issue.
Yes, it
If
is.
you go by just slow charging, then it is not going to work, especially if you're in a farm somewhere.
Yes.
It'll become that much more difficult, which is completely crazy, but true.
Oh, yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
anyway, it'll be a very interesting few weeks, won't it?
Oh, you bet. You bet. I don't know whether I would like it interesting any longer. I would like it boring, actually. That would help.
I was, talking to someone today. I'm born in 1960.
Yeah.
So, the 70s, 80s, and the early 90s were so stable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Right? We just never had problems. Everything was just done simply. I mean, it just wasn't a problem. Now, every day you wake up, there's some new drama.
Yeah, that is true. No, I'm born in 68, so I totally get it. We never had that much money at all in India. But we were very happy. We never had any challenge, It was easy to get good food to eat and go to the best of schools. But that was it then.
Yeah. Well, my parents used to say, I'd say to my mum on the weekends, I'll be back. And she'd say, make sure you're back before dark.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? No mobile phone. No money,
just turn up. Yeah. Just turn up at the dinner time. That's
no
it.
water bottle. No nothing. Just a pair of shorts and a shirt.
That's it.
And you disappear for the whole day.
Yes.
You know, and you get back before dark, and she'd say, "Oh, that was nice. Do you have a good time?" You
Yeah.
know,
I know,
So-
100%. 100%.
or
True.
you'd be strapped on bloody elevators.
All right.
All right, guys.
All the best to all of us.
Hey, just before you go, Tim, that thing you wrote today about, you know, the hypotheses where it could go was very interesting, wasn't it? You know, with the graph on it and like where it physically could go. It's pretty interesting.
Well, I was looking at it. I was compartmentalizing it. Like
Yeah.
there's so many ships in the world, but the ships are at optimal. So if you start saying I'm only going to take one from Singapore to Australia to Cape, you know, to Houston, and they've got to go through the Cape Horn or through the Panama Canal, like that is a longer route. So it makes sense that that ship and that shipping price will explode in value.
Yeah.
Oil price will go up no matter what. But then there's also that Houston, you're also competing against Europe that's already on the other side and South America. So someone is going to miss out.
Yep.
Or everyone's going to miss out to a point. And then it's a question of, so if I look at the amount of diesel we have in Australia, I think passenger cars are going to get turned off.
Yeah.
That's what I
You
think.
can't not. Like you've got to do the farming and the trucking. If you don't, and the mining, because mining kills your money.
Yeah.
Agriculture kills you got no money food for people. And the trucking is obviously just a derivative of those two. I think big projects like you know, like the train line build and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that will grind to a halt. I think that'll all stop. But if that stops, it's going to kill Melbourne's economy. It's going to be crazy.
How can it stop? Because there's like thousands and thousands of people employed there.
No, but there's no diesel.
It's
So
it's like
nothing
you've
to
got
move.
to prioritize, Bruce. Like there's so much diesel. It's like your money, your food, distributing your food, construction, passenger cars. So passenger cars, just by definition, have to be wiped out. That you're not going to be allowed to, I reckon that they'll see the article it came up with tonight, because I was doing some like research. They said you might find this weird thing where every single car that is not a utility vehicle being used as a utility vehicle will basically be off the road. And then all the other ones, the ones that are like, you know, like a proper builder's truck, they might be allowed. But even like that secondary thing, if there's just not enough, like if there's not enough, there's not enough. Like there's nothing you can do.
But don't forget, you've got emergency services. You've got police,
Yep.
fire brigade, ambulance, doctors. They're all going to get priority. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And they need to be, right?
They have. Yeah, you need that. So
They have to be. That's just a part of the fabric.
So it is back to COVID times, Bruce. That's all.
Yep.
it's
Yep.
indeed
To start with,
way worse
or
than
worse, or worse than that.
Worse.
because
All
we,
you missed
just
in-
during COVID, you could just say you're essential, and it was fine.
You used to be able to drive up to Yarrawonga.
No, that is true. No, but I think it will be a starting point. Will be that.
You drove, you know. The only thing we had a problem with COVID was toilet paper. You know, this is going to blow. This is going to blow out. I can tell you. I don't really understand.
That's
you know.
why I'm saying cross your fingers, and that's about it.
And what happens if Loy Yang blows up, or
Oh,
stations goes down, or
All right. Let's talk positive, man. All right. See ya, guys.
uh,
fellas, thanks for that. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks. See you later. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.